Hi, my name is Tiana.
I'm Bethany.
And we're both marketing media majors here at the Masters University. And for our sales and customer service class, we were assigned to take a tour at a different Christian university. And for the purpose of this video, we chose to take a tour at Westmont University.
So to start out for this project, because of COVID regulations, we weren't able to get an official tour on their website. So I have a friend that goes to Westmont, fortunately, and so he has a bunch of connections with admissions there. So we were able to set up a tour through him. But because of that, we weren't officially on the list, and so we had to sneak on campus. So here's a clip to that.
I know, we're having to sneak in on campus to get this tour, so
you're
welcome.
Okay, I think we're...
So once we were finally able to arrive on campus, the first thing we did is we went to the administration building, but because of COVID, we weren't allowed inside, so we were waiting outside. And the lady who was supposed to give us our tour guide unprofessionally showed up 10 minutes late, so that was a little thing right there. But once she rolled up, she went inside and told us to wait a minute and got a bunch of other tour guides out. They came outside, they kind of were like, oh, who's with who, kind of sectioned out the people, try to find like who's part of their group. And after they figured that out, then they went inside and got the folders, which we will show you what they gave us in clip following. When we attended Westmont, they handed each one of us one of these pamphlet booklets. And on the top over here, they had their mission statement, which is just who they're about. And following that, they had a fact sheet, which was just information with their academic resources. And over here, this is what Bethany and I both like. This is kind of a general overview of what the school is. So it's a combination of their majors and like a bunch of different facts that they have on their website, but it's just very easy and like helpful to have like as a booklet. And then at the end of this section, they had a magazine, which we really didn't understand what it was, but it's really cool if people want to get into journaling. It kind of shows like what they're capable of doing. But yes, on this side they had, which I thought was really cool, they have a page talking about all their local restaurants and like things to do in Santa Barbara. So it's really helpful for like students to get an idea of like what they can do outside of school. And following that, they have like top graduate schools where like alumni have attended. So it kind of encourages students to want to go there because they know like their money won't be wasted because they're an undergraduate program. And then following that, they have their global program page, which is just all the different locations that they have, what is it called? That they have global programs. And so after that, they have Westmont rankings, which is basically ranking them against other schools and what magazines and like people have said about them. So this is where we started our tour. This is the admissions place, and she told us that they do about 15 tours a day, and then that's when we realized that there were no golf carts on this tour. So as we went on, we saw their gardens, and it was just a bunch of kumquat trees, which was pretty cool. She made a really big emphasis on the beauty of their campus and just what it offers and the variety of like different study areas, which is really cool, and like just how beautiful it was overall. That was like their main talking point. The first stop on the tour was the library, and they're basically telling us about all the different cool features they have. They have treadmill studying, which they basically just have treadmills in there where you can just walk and study, which is super cool. They also have group study rooms that you can reserve, and during finals week you can reserve for 24 hours or 24/7. And yeah, it's just something that Westmont offers that we don't, but they're very proud about it. This next clip, she started talking about how they have a great visual arts program, how they emphasize just how talented their students are, and they like to display the students' artwork. So they showed the art building right there, and then the little statue was also just an art piece from one of the students, which is pretty cool. And they do have a lot of stairs was the other thing. So the fact that it was a whole walking tour, it did make it would have been impossible for us to have a golf cart tour, but the walking was kind of a lot. So I don't think it's the most handicap friendly because there's so much like uphills and downhills and stairs everywhere. This section, this is when we got to the classrooms, and the windows that you saw over there, they're able to go up and down, and so it can be an indoor-outdoor classroom, and they emphasize their architecture and basically the way their facility is built.
The cool part about this clip was that she started talking about their creation stations, which were basically just stations where students could show off their talents. Like I said before, how they have their art programs and like their creations displayed. So these stations, she said that they have student grown gardens and woodworking shops, ceramics and paintings and different things. So she also really emphasized how the students like just display their talents freely.
So over here, she was taking a look at the track and basically the view where you can see all the way to the ocean and the mountains. It's just a beautiful landscape. Like, the location of Westmont is absolutely stunning. I don't think you can beat that, and they know that. But in this next clip, you'll see that they have faculty housing on campus, which is a very unique feature that Westmont has, and they really emphasize the student and teacher relationship, and they prize that along with the beauty of the school, and that because the teachers are so local and so close to campus, like, students just have that genuine, like, close relationship with them and can go to them for any question they have whenever.
The next part that she took us on the tour was to their science and mathematics building, and this was really cool because, again, there was a huge emphasis on just the beauty of the architecture and how thoughtful they were. So she pointed out in this part that their stairs were designed to look like the DNA helix, which was pretty cool. So the campus definitely just also has a wow factor, and they talk about every single point that just leads back to why their campus is just very beautiful. And then at some point at this time, she talked about COVID regulations, but she didn't really bring it up until someone asked about it. So this is when we were looking inside one of the classrooms, and that's when someone asked, like, do you have to wear masks in class? Like, how does that all work? And then she briefly covered it, didn't really go into detail about it, but I guess that's fine.
So this is where we entered their lecture hall, and this is the biggest lecture hall they have on campus, the biggest classroom they have, and this is where they host most of their, like, GE science requirement classes because it's the largest classroom size. But they said typically they don't really fill it up, and their classroom teacher to student ratio is still fairly small compared to bigger universities and bigger schools.
I think they said about 15 to 1. And moving on to this next clip, there's another outdoor classroom. They just did this because of COVID regulations, but it was at this point when we stopped right before chapel that she started talking about their spiritual life, and this was the first time that she had mentioned it in the entire tour. So, and another cool thing about their chapels was that she pointed out how they have a lot of mainstream bands come and play for them and big name speakers, and that they have gender-specific chapels as well as prayer chapels, which I thought was pretty cool. And yeah.
But they also have 12 skips compared to masters, which we have 8 skips. So they were basically saying you can skip about once a week if you want to, and it's a very casual setting where people normally show up in, like, leggings and sports clothes versus masters, where we really emphasize the professional aspect. This is the fun part where we got to the dorms and on-campus living, and the one thing that was a shocker to us is that every dorm on campus is co-ed dorms, and she really emphasized that she liked the fact that it was co-ed because it really promoted real life living, kind of saying, like, you're gonna always be living with, like, other people, so might as well get used to it now. And, like, schools that have single gender dorms, it's almost unrealistic to the real world. And so in dorms every day from 12 to midnight
So there would be, like, a girls section, then a boys section,
like
then a girls
hall.
section.
So like a girl would have their own hallway, and then guys would have their own hallway, but it was all in one dorm.
This is also where I asked about the dress code, and she just said we don't have one. And I was like, oh, okay. Well,
Actually, the only dress code was no profanity.
Yeah. That was it.
If you take a look on the right side, which I'll view, you'll see a hallway, and that's actually that's the RD's dorm room right there, and that RD is in charge of the whole unit there, and each hallway that you see is either for a guy or for a girl, so the guys and girls have their own hallways.
So just a note, all throughout the tour, she talked about her RA experience, and being on campus, what that was like, what she's learned, and she really did make it a point. Walking tour was that each time that we were walking to the next location that she would stop and like just accept questions at that point and then ask questions to us like, okay, what major are you looking at, where are you coming from, and just being very intentional and getting to know where we are.
So really good at answering questions, so that's a huge one. And she was very like, even if there was times where the tour ahead of us was kind of still in that location, she did a good job of still being able to talk to us and communicate to us and just give us a bunch of different facts about the school, so there's never like dead time or dead air time where it was just awkward. Like, she was just really good about making conversation and getting to know you, so she did a great job at that. So this is when we arrived to the Global Leadership Center, and if you take a look over there on the left hand side, that's their coffee shop. And one of the tour people, one of the people that was on the tour with us basically told us it was the worst coffee she's ever had. So that's a fun. We entered the building, and again, it's another huge classroom, and a lot of students were just studying here. One thing that they prize is that a lot of their students, they're very academically rigorous, and you can kind of see that on campus. Everyone was just studying everywhere, like using every room. They're very academically driven.
And the other thing I liked was that she was interactive with the current students. So like she was like, hey, how are you guys doing? Like talking to the students that were studying in that room, which I thought was really cool, because I know that it can be like, oh, we're here and then we don't know these people, but she did a good job of like integrating us into the atmosphere.
So we didn't get a video of the cafeteria, but when we walked past it, our tour guide did a great job of explaining to us that they had great dairy-free and gluten-free options, and they were very accommodating the dietary needs, and also that they had a dietitian, which was super cool. And I asked the question if they catered to athletes with building nutrition plans, and she wasn't quite sure about that, but just having a dietitian on campus is always helpful.
So to end it, it was just pretty much a full circle tour, and I thought that we went around the entire campus, but apparently it was only a quarter of the campus, so that wasn't the greatest. Here we entered back into where we started, and she just let us look around in where they have their admissions department, and it was just super nice. Again, an emphasis on the architecture and the layout of their campus and just the beauty of it.
I have a picture of the map right here, and basically the only area or section we toured was this little section right here, and so we didn't get to even see any of this part of campus. So that was kind of a bummer because we don't really know what the whole campus comprised of. But the one thing I really liked about the tour guide and the tour in general was she was able to give a lot of personal experiences, and it wasn't just factual of, oh, we do this, but she'd always relate it back to, oh, when I was in class, I remember a class we did this, or a prof that did this, or like, she was very personal, and it just made the experience seem all the more real. She knows the school she's attending, she knows the ins and outs of it, and it was just very helpful.
And another fun thing that we got to experience was the fact that during our tour, the group that we had, there was a mom and daughter who had actually visited Masters the day before. So I was saying that I was going to visit on Tuesday, which I was, and they had nothing but great things to say about Masters. One of the things that she said that stood out to them was just that they incorporated scripture, basis of their doctrine, into every single stop that they made. So that was just really encouraging, and that just says a lot about our campus in general. When we ended the tour, she did ask about there is scripture implemented into every class, and like if professors need to write like a doctrine statement of faith, and our tour guide kind of shied away from that.
And to add on to that, you don't have to sign a doctrine of faith to attend Masters. The professors do, but not the students. So you don't necessarily have to be a believer to attend. Believe that, oh, like if an unbeliever comes, they're surrounded by, a bunch of other believers, and so that'll help grow their faith, and it'll be easier to share the gospel with them. So iron sharpens iron, I don't know.
But overall, she did a great job of, again, personalizing her experience here, and just being intentional with asking the people that were on the tour questions. That was our tour. Great.